Hi everybody, my name is Ron. Today we're going to take a look at a few of the items that you're going to need to be able to perform to get qualified in the G1000 Nxi platform. So let's plug in the ground power and get started. Hi everybody, it's Ron again. As you can see by our intro video, we had a great time this weekend at a search and rescue exercise conducted at Gillespie Field using the Air and Space Museum Annex and hangar as a base of operations. Conducted various search and communication exercises as part of our Civil Air Patrol training for missions to find lost aircraft, things of that nature. It was a great day to be at the airfield, 2 days to be at the airfield. We had a little weather come in the second day, as you can see by the clouds where I did most of this recording. But we took the cloudy weather as an opportunity, at least I did, to do some recording of some tasks, some operation tasks of the G1000 Nxi that we have on our Cessna 172 training aircraft. Now, the G1000 or G1000 Nxi platform are great sources of information, whether it's flight information on the primary flight display, navigation data, communications data, weather data, traffic data that can end up on the multifunction display on the right. And it's really taken airframes like the Cessna 172 all the way up to Citation jets to the level of having a full-featured flight management system like you find in an airliner. Now, it's great from a safety perspective because these things don't fail often. They've got battery backups. You don't have to worry about a failing vacuum system, and there are quite a few redundancies. That'll be a feature of another video later on. But with all of this capability comes complexity. As you know, with you're operating your phone apps, your applications on your laptop computer, things of that nature, that there are a million options, a bunch of different ways to get things done, and sometimes you just kind of have to poke around and figure it out. Well, if you try that in one of these airplanes in flight, you're going to realize that you probably should have figured it out on the ground. Now, there are many different ways of doing that. One way to do that is to use the Garmin G1000 Nxi trainer. It's about $50, comes on a memory stick, and you can use it on your laptop, which is great. You can use something like X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Simulator, which both have G1000s. Many of you know that I'm a big flight simulator fan, but sometimes there's no substitute for getting in the cockpit and tinkering with it, doing a little hangar flying. Part of the difficulty in doing that is that these suck a lot of power, and The batteries on these aircraft are light for obvious reasons, right? You want the airplane to be light so you have more carrying capacity. So you can't have these things on for long before you run down the battery and you can't start the engine. So during the exercise, we hooked up an external power source. I've got a little video of me doing just that and some text so that you can see how that's done. I had actually never done it before Sunday. So that was an interesting exercise, but hooking it up to ground power allowed me to sit there and other pilots to sit there and interact with the system when the engine wasn't running. And I'll tell you what, it's said that the cockpit is a horrible classroom because there's so much going on, you really don't retain much. But when you can sit there in either seat and manipulate the avionics and take your time and tinker, and if you get into the wrong screen, you get lost in a menu, it's not a big deal. There's no stress. You figure it out. You repeat it a couple of times, and you really cement it into the mind. So that's what we did this weekend, among other things. I got quite a bit of it on GoPro footage, so we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to cover some basic operations. Now, as you can see, I've got this called up, the G1000 book by Pilot Workshops, and we're just looking at the cover right now. I highly recommend this book. It's got some great information in it on how to accomplish certain operations, how to load approaches, how to do things of that nature. But it's pretty big. I think it's somewhere around 75 pages, 80 pages, something like that. And this is the condensed version of the G1000 syllabus. So, we're going to cover a few things. This is an elephant to learn, okay? And how do you eat an elephant? You do it one bite at a time. So we're going to cover some things that when you go up to fly your Form 5 check ride to get qualified in the G1000 or qualified in an aircraft that has a G1000, there are going to be some things you're going to need to do. And those include, let's see if I can come up with them from memory. Those include entering a flight plan, saving the flight plan to memory, deleting the flight plan, loading the flight plan again, adding a waypoint to the middle of the flight plan, specifically using latitude and longitude. That's kind of handy on our Civil Air Patrol missions. If somebody has all of a sudden comes up with a rough last known position, they might give it to us in latitude and longitude rather than an aviation waypoint. So we have to be able to insert that waypoint so that we can fly directly to that waypoint and hopefully find what we're looking for. So we've got to go ahead and add that waypoint in lat and long. We're going to go ahead and do that in the cockpit. And then another thing that often, is a little cumbersome is finding weather if you don't know how to do it. Once you know how to do it, as you'll see in the demonstration, it's really not difficult. I believe in the squatter, the qualification requirements, you have to be able to find weather using two different methods. So we're going to do that. We're going to cover two of them. I don't want to overwhelm everybody with information. And another thing that we might circle back on towards the end are two things that always trip me up. Now, as a pilot, I don't fly this airplane all the time. Do I fly 172s frequently? Sure. Do they all have the G1000? Almost none of them do. This is the only one that does. Are they NXIs? Nope. Not even all cap G1000 aircraft have NXIs or stability protection or flight data logging. So we're going to go ahead and look at where you find certain things in the utility menu so that you're not scratching your head once you get the engine started and thinking, gosh, am I logging my location in the G1000? Do I have stability protection turned on? etc. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of those screens. The advantage of doing this and putting this in video is that you can review this before you go to the airplane, before you go for your training, before you go for your Form 5. It's said that, with the law of exercise, the more you do something, the better you retain it. I also had a boss once that said, hey, to get your message across, you have to say something 7 times, 7 different ways. So this is going to be one of the ways to say it. Hopefully it sticks in your mind. Hopefully it helps, or it's a good review. So let's get started. We have the ten-second test. And 10. There's the backup battery, which of course gives power to the primary flight display. And we're going to go ahead and engage the master though. And we're on shore power. Now, the avionics bus 1 and 2 are both off, but this is always on as long as it has power. There's no killing it. And it's getting power through the battery bus. We're going to go ahead and turn both of those on. And we can see that the other Garmin comes on, goes through its boot sequence, checks the databases, okay. So this is now our playground. We can run this as long as we like because we're on shore power. Okay, welcome to the G1000 Nxi. We're going to be talking today about how to do a few things that are required tasks as a CAP pilot in the G1000 Nxi platform. First, let's talk about how the FMS knob works. The FMS knob has 2 encoders, a large one, a small one, and a button. All right, you can push in on the knob and it'll go ahead and select things. So the big one selects pages, and as you see down here, you've got map, waypoint, aux, etc. And you select those with the big knob. We're going to go over to, for example, aux. We're going to start out at utility, and if you look over here, you can see that flight data logging is logging data right here. We're going to go to another page. Right now we're on utility and aux. We're going to go down to GPS status. That shows us whether we, what satellites we're tracking, things of that nature, where they are. RAIM, if you're going to do IFR flying, you want to compute RAIM, you hit the cursor button, you go down to compute RAIM, and then push enter, and it says RAIM's available, so we can go ahead and use that feature of GPS. We're going to go get rid of the cursor by pushing the button again, go to a different screen, system setup. All right, that gives us date, time, display units, things of that nature that we typically don't mess with a whole lot, but hidden underneath setup 2 is stability and protection. Right now it's disabled. That keeps us from overbanking or pitching the aircraft. If we want to enable that feature, we push in on the knob, rotate the small knob to enable, and then hit enter. We go ahead and push the knob again to disappear the cursor, and then we go to the next, either back to the setup screen or rotating the small knob and going to the next page. System status, ADSB status. That tells us what data we're getting on ADSB. So we're getting weather, things of that nature, and we'll talk about how that's used. But that's how you navigate the FMS with the FMS knob. We're going to go, there's the flight plan page, checklist page, and all the way to the right is the nearest page. All right. You see we've got nearest airports, KSEE, KMYF, etc. You go ahead and hit the button, and then you can hit direct to, for example, we're going to go ahead and use the big knob to cursor down to Montgomery Field, hit direct to, and then enter, and activates blinking. So we go ahead and hit enter again, and now we can see there's a magenta line here going between Gillespie and Montgomery Field. If we hit the flight plan button, we can see that our active flight plan says direct to Montgomery Field. We don't want that, so we're going to go ahead and hit the FMS button again. Use the big knob counterclockwise. And we're going to select a new origin. Our origin is going to be here. We're at Gillespie right now at the San Diego Air and Space Museum Annex. So we're going to rotate it. Big knob rotates it over. Left to the S. Big knob rotates to the right. E. Big knob rotates it to the, moves it to the right. Gillespie Field, enter. That's our origin. And we're gonna go, I went back up to the runway section, selected runway none. You don't have to put a runway in there, but you can use the small knob there to go to 27 right, enter, enter to accept. Now we're gonna go down to the destination. We actually don't wanna go to Montgomery. We're gonna go ahead and plan a flight to Ramona. So we're going to use the small knob, K, big knob goes over to the right, small knob, twist it till we get the R, and then N or for November, and then there we go, Ramona, California. There's our destination. We're going to select runway. We went ahead and used the big knob to go up to the destination. Now we're on runway. We're going to select runway 27. There's only one chunk of pavement up in Ramona, so 09 or 27. Enter, enter. There we have it. Now, how are we going to get there? What's our route? We're going to add a NAV Julian VOR, which is Juliet Lima India, JLI. So we're going to use the small knob again. Backtrack to J. Big knob rotates it to the right. Small knob selects the letter, Lima, and over to India. Big knob goes over to the right, and then Julian. Enter. Now, let's say we wanted to add a latitude and longitude. So at this point, it's important to remember that when you add something, you put a cursor on the following waypoint. So if the cursor is on JLI, Julian Vortac, and we add a waypoint, it's going to add it before Julian Vortac. So we're going to go to menu because we want to add the user-defined waypoint, and it says down here, create new user waypoint. We're going to go ahead and cursor down there and then hit enter. That's radial and distance from, say, Julian VOR. We could do that, but we want latitude and longitude, so we're going to use the small knob, go down to latitude and longitude, hit enter. Okay, I wrote down the latitude and longitude on my phone. We actually want 3250 07. And 116. 4737. Enter, enter. Now we can see there's a user-defined waypoint in front of Julian Vortak.